Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Houston Sports Talk back into the video today. And today, in the NFL draft, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado, Deion Sanders' son, went undrafted. And I'm not going to say it's shocker because there were some hints that Shedeur Sanders would potentially not be picked in the first round in this year's draft. There were a couple months ago some reports about how Shedeur Sanders could fall to the second round, but ultimately I don't think anyone really thought that would happen, and it did after the first round on Thursday night. Shedeur Sanders, after a great senior season with Colorado, the completion percentage was 74%. I think one of the big reasons why NFL teams like him so much is his accuracy. Through 4,134 passing yards, 37 passing touchdowns, and he also threw 10 interceptions in the 13 games that Colorado had this year and had a great season. I don't think you're going to see anyone that says he didn't, because he did, but not selected in the first round. Here's one thing I will say. There are a lot of people that online are making this about race. I personally don't think that's what this is. I think there are a couple of reasons why Shedeur Sanders is not getting drafted, in the first round. I think a big reason why is a lot of teams. There's not a lot of need, I think, at quarterback this year. You saw at number one, Tennessee. They were at need. They went out there and they got Cam Ward. That was their guy. You look outside of that, at two, the Browns, I know they could use a quarterback, but, here's what I will say. Shedeur Sanders is a great quarterback. Whoever he goes, and this is the same thing for Jackson Dart too, or any other quarterback in this league. There was no quarterback besides, and just this is my opinion, there was no other quarterback in this year's draft that deserved to go in the top 10 besides Cam Ward. I don't think Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, or any other quarterback in this year's draft was worthy of being, I would say, even top 20 besides Cam Ward. And that's Jackson Dart. I thought Jackson Dart got lucky he was a second round, that he was a first round pick. I think Jackson Dart's a great quarterback as well. If you make me decide between Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders, that's a little tricky decision. I think both guys are great quarterbacks. I think Shedeur's accuracy, I really like that with him. But Jackson Dart's got a real strong deep ball. I think that's why New York favors Jackson Dart, and that's why they selected Jackson Dart. But you look at New Orleans, New Orleans, a team that I think had probably some interest in Shedeur Sanders. Offensive line is a need. To add to the offensive line, you add in an amazing offensive tackle like Kelvin Banks Jr. This is an amazing offensive tackle. New Orleans, I know, is one of those teams that could have been looking at drafting Sanders, but Banks was the right pick there. You want to go over some other teams that could have drafted him. The Rams, I think, could have been a team to draft him, but the Rams got an amazing offer with the Atlanta Falcons at the Rams had an amazing offer for the Falcons to trade up for their pick. And I don't blame them, because the Rams got offered a first round pick for next year's draft. I thought that was a really good trade that the Rams made. You traded down 16 spots and got a first for next year. So that was a solid trade the Rams made. The only team that I would say that the only team in the first round that I would question not drafting Shedeur Sanders are the Pittsburgh Steelers. The only team I look at and like, why not draft Shedeur Sanders? You have this quarterback issue right now. That was your chance. Him or Jackson Dart. I didn't understand that Pittsburgh pick. I really like the defensive tackle they selected. I think he's a solid defensive tackle. But that's not a need for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I mean, they are stacked in the defensive line room, maybe more in the defensive end room than they are the defensive tackle room. But defensive tackles and something you can address later on. Quarterback is that makes me think that maybe they have some interest in maybe Jalen Milroe, Or maybe, I don't know, maybe that tells me Pittsburgh thinks Shedeur Sanders could fall to them in the second round. I have no idea. I thought Shedeur Sanders was going to go 21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's the only team I really look at in the first round. And like, you might have made a mistake not drafting Sanders, but you could also say the same thing with Pittsburgh not drafting Jackson Dart. Honestly, Pittsburgh could have taken Jackson Dart at 21, and we could have seen Sanders go 25 to the Giants instead of Dart. I don't know if the Giants would have traded up for Sanders too. But I think it's going to be interesting to where Sanders falls. I don't think he'll be very far. The Browns, and I don't know how Sanders will feel about playing for the Browns, but the Browns have two of the first 5 second-round picks, because they have their own second-round pick and they received a second-round pick in the Travis Hunter trade. So they've got two of the first 5 second-round picks. Honestly, with their need at quarterback, Shedeur Sanders available. The first second-round pick is the Browns. I wouldn't be surprised if they pick him right there, and then they have a pick a couple picks later. The Texans are in between those teams. The Texans aren't draft. It's like the Texans. I don't see him. I don't see Shedeur Sanders not going in top 37. I think the Raiders are at 37. I think they very well might pick him, but I think the team I look at as well is with the Cleveland Browns, and them having, I want to say it's 33 and 36 that they have. Might be 33 and 35 that the Browns have, but I think it's 33 and 36. And then you got the Raiders at 37. I know what Sanders would want. Sanders, I know if you ask Shedeur Sanders, he'd rather be picked at 37 with the Raiders instead of 33 or 36 with the Browns. And I think the Raiders would have mutual interest in with Sanders. But the Browns could be a team that looks to draft a quarterback. And they've got 2 second-round picks in like the first 5 second-round picks in the second. So you guys let me know where you guys think Sanders goes. I don't think it takes long for him to be selected in day 2. I think it's either Cleveland or Las Vegas for Sanders. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and peace out.